I never thought I would find myself in a position like this, sitting alone in the dim light of our living room, my heart racing as I stared at my wife's phone. I had just come back from a long day at work, feeling every hour like a rubber band, leaving me exhausted and yearning for the comfort of home. I expected to find Edge relaxing on the couch, maybe scrolling through social media or preparing dinner. Instead, I found her phone resting on the coffee table, the screen lit up with a message notification from someone named Mike. At first glance, it seemed innocent enough, just a simple "can't wait for our session tomorrow." But the weight of that message felt like a boulder dropping into the depths of my stomach. Edge had always been my partner in every sense of the word. We built our lives together, navigating through every triumph and tragedy side by side. But now, I felt a knot of unease tightening in my chest. I brushed aside the nagging feeling that something was off, convincing myself that everything was fine. But in that moment, with her phone in my hand, that comforting illusion shattered. My pulse quickened as I picked up the phone, the screen still glowing with that seemingly innocuous message. My heart screamed at me to put it down and walk away, to dismiss it as a misunderstanding. But curiosity mixed with a deep sense of foreboding compelled me to dive deeper. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling slightly, and unlocked the phone. It was a dangerous decision, and I knew it. I scrolled through the messages, each one cutting deeper into my heart. They were filled with flirtation and playful banter that felt too intimate. "I miss you," one read, followed by a string of heart emojis. My stomach twisted further as I continued to dig deeper, uncovering photos of Edge with Mike, my trainer, at the gym, smiling in ways I hadn't seen her smile in months. Each picture felt like another punch to my gut, leaving me flooded with disbelief and a growing sense of dread. The more I found, the more hollow I felt inside. There were messages that hinted at meetings outside of the gym, mentions of dinner plans, and flirty references to late-night workouts. My heart raced as I stumbled upon a picture that would be burned into my memory, a snapshot of Edge leaning into Mike, her face aglow with happiness I no longer recognized. My chest tightened, and a bitter wave of nausea rolled over me. The room began to spin, and I staggered back against the wall for support. How could she do this to me? I replayed our last few months in my mind, searching for clues and patterns, trying to piece together how I could have been so blind. Each realization felt like a dagger, ripping apart the foundation of trust we had built. I could feel the world crashing around me, the weight of my love for her now turning into a heavy chain dragging me down. As I sank into the couch, the phone still clutched in my hands, an unbearable mix of anger and sorrow welled up inside me. I felt utterly lost and confused. It was as if my entire life had become a cruel joke. And I was the punchline. How could I have been so naive? The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted completely, was now a stranger, and the reality of that betrayal was suffocating. In that moment of despair, a fire ignited within me, a determination to reclaim my dignity and my life. I knew I had to act, but not in the way I initially thought. I wouldn't confront her immediately, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. No, this was a war, and I was going to prepare for the battle. I would devise a plan, one that would leave her stunned and forced to confront the consequences of her choices. That day marked the beginning of a dark chapter in my life, when I was now determined to right myself. Little did I know, the path ahead would be fraught with pain, but it would also lead me to a profound realization of my strength and resilience. As I sat in that quiet living room, I vowed to myself that I would not let this betrayal define me. I would rise from the ashes, stronger than ever, and ensure Edge faced the truth she had tried so hard to hide. In the aftermath of discovering Edge's betrayal, my mind swirled with confusion, anger, and an aching sense of loss. Every instinct told me to confront her, to scream and rage against the injustice of it all. But as I sat there in the darkened living room, my heart pounding, I realized that a more calculated approach was necessary. Emotions would cloud my judgment, I needed to think strategically. Revenge, I decided, would be my greatest weapon, and it had to be executed flawlessly. The first step in my plan was to gather as much information as I could about Edge and her new friend, Mike. I had seen enough in those messages to understand that their relationship went beyond the gym, but I needed to know more, details that would allow me to strike at the heart of their deceit. I became a silent observer, a detective in my own life, carefully piecing together the puzzle of their affair. I began by meticulously monitoring K's behavior. I took note of her daily routines, the times she left for the gym and the excuses she made to explain her late nights. I was like a hawk circling its prey, observing from a distance while my heart simmered with betrayal. I realized she was more invested in her fitness regimen than ever, often spending hours at the gym. I had always supported her dedication to health, but now it felt like a facade, a cover for her clandestine meetings with Mike. Next, I enlisted the help of my friend Tom, who worked at the same gym where K. trained. I asked him to keep an eye on her and to let me know if he saw anything unusual. Tom, oblivious to my motives, agreed readily, seeing it as a chance to help out a friend in need. I felt a pang of guilt for dragging him into my web of revenge, but I quickly brushed it aside. This was about K. and I had to know the full extent of her deception. As the days passed, I collected snippets of information from Tom and pieced them together. K. was spending more time with Mike than I had initially realized. They were often seen laughing together, sharing moments that felt far too intimate for a trainer-client relationship. I could picture her smiling up at him, her eyes sparkling with something that was once reserved only for me. Each new revelation stoked the fire of my anger and the determination to retaliate. I decided that the next step was to gather concrete evidence. I began to follow K. discreetly on days when I suspected she would meet Mike. I equipped myself with a small camera, a silent observer capturing the moments that would prove her infidelity. I parked my car a few blocks away from the gym, waiting in the shadows, heart racing, feeling both empowered and sickened by what I was doing. One day, I captured them leaving the gym together. The way K. leaned into Mike as they walked, the laughter that erupted from them, it stung like acid in my veins. I felt a mix of satisfaction and pain, knowing I was right to suspect her. Yet the confirmation twisted the knife deeper. I snapped a few pictures, each click of the shutter sending a thrill of vindication through me, despite the devastation it brought to my heart. With this evidence in hand, I began to craft my strategy. I envisioned a family gathering where I would lay bare the truth, a spectacle that would reveal K. for who she was. I wanted to expose her betrayal not just to me, but to our friends and family, the very people she had deceived. I pictured their shocked faces, the disbelief, and the ultimate shame she would feel as I stripped away her facade of respectability. As I brainstormed how to execute my plan, I considered every detail carefully. I would announce that I was retiring and transferring my business to K. a move that would shock everyone, especially her. But then, with a calmness I didn't truly feel, I would reveal the truth, introducing Mike as her new partner, the betrayal laid bare for all to see. The shock on her face would be worth every ounce of pain I felt. I imagined the room falling silent, the weight of the revelation crashing down like thunder. My mind raced with possibilities as I strategized, and with each passing day, my resolve grew stronger. Revenge was no longer a mere fantasy, it was a carefully constructed plan that would culminate in K's ultimate reckoning. I felt a sense of empowerment, the kind that had been stripped away from me when I first discovered her betrayal. The plan had taken shape, a roadmap to reclaiming my dignity. I would ensure that K. faced the consequences of her actions, and as I prepared for the upcoming family gathering, I felt a flicker of anticipation. The emotional rollercoaster of the past weeks was about to lead to a final act of catharsis. This was not just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my life and taking back the power that had been so cruelly taken from me. Little did K. know that the web of lies she had spun would soon come crashing down around her, and I would be the one to set it all in motion. The day of the family gathering arrived with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. I had spent days planning every detail, rehearsing my words in the privacy of my home. The goal was to create an atmosphere of normalcy, a setting where I could unveil the truth without raising any suspicion beforehand. I made sure to send out invitations to our closest family members, emphasizing how important it was for me to share some significant news about my future. As I prepared the house, I filled it with the aroma of my favorite dishes: roast chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, and a vibrant salad. I wanted to create a sense of warmth and comfort, a stark contrast to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I set the dining room table with our best plates, polished the silverware, and arranged a centerpiece of fresh flowers. Every detail had to be perfect. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and anxiety as I arranged the seating, ensuring that K-Edge would be seated right next to me, while Mike would sit across the table. As family members began to arrive, I greeted them with forced smiles and light-hearted banter. They were excited and eager to catch up, blissfully unaware of the explosive revelation that would soon unfold. K-Edge arrived last, her cheerful demeanor brightening the room. She looked stunning in her fitted dress, her hair cascading in waves around her shoulders, completely oblivious to the turmoil simmering beneath my surface. I welcomed her with a hug, taking in her scent, which was a comforting mix of her perfume and the shampoo she used. Little did she know, this would be the last normal moment we would share. Once everyone was settled, and the food was served, I took a deep breath and clinked my glass to get their attention. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady despite the anxiety swirling within me. "I have something important I want to share with you." The chatter quieted, and eyes turned toward me, curious and expectant. I glanced at K-Edge, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of anticipation and pride. I steeled myself, knowing this was the moment to reveal my plan. "I've been thinking a lot about my career and the direction I want to take in my life," I continued, letting the words hang in the air for a moment. "After years of hard work, I've decided to retire." Gasps of surprise echoed around the table, and I felt a rush of satisfaction at the shocked expressions on their faces. My family exchanged glances, unable to process what I had just said. K-Edge's brow furrowed in confusion, her fork clattering onto her plate as she met my gaze with wide eyes. "What do you mean, retire?" she asked, her voice shaky. I smiled, my heart racing at the sight of her uncertainty. "I've decided to pass the business on to you, K-Edge. You've always had a passion for it, and I believe you'll take it to new heights." A heavy silence fell over the room, the weight of my words hanging in the air. K-Edge's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Her shock morphed into disbelief, and I could see her mind racing to process the unexpected turn of events. Everyone else looked equally bewildered, trying to grasp the implications of my announcement. I reveled in their confusion, savoring the moment as I could almost hear the cogs turning in K-Edge's mind. "Are you serious?" she finally managed to ask, her voice tinged with a mixture of excitement and fear. "You're giving me the business?" "Yes," I replied calmly, "I believe it's time for you to take the reins. I know how hard you've worked. And I trust you." The satisfaction swelling within me was almost intoxicating. The look of sheer shock on K-Edge's face was worth all the pain I had endured. But the best was yet to come. "And to help with the transition, I'd like to introduce you to your new partner," I said, feigning nonchalance. I glanced across the table at Mike, who had been sitting quietly, observing the entire exchange. The tension in the room shifted as I continued. "Everyone, meet Mike, my trainer, and now your partner in business." K-Edge's expression shifted dramatically, a mix of horror and realization flooding her features. I could see the color draining from her face as the truth settled in. The room erupted in a murmur of surprise and confusion as everyone processed the implications of my words. I felt a sense of triumph swell within me, my heart racing with satisfaction as K-Edge's mouth fell open in disbelief. "What?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're joking, right? This is some kind of prank?" "No joke, K-Edge," I replied, my tone steady. "This is very real. I've seen the messages, the photos, everything. You thought you could keep this a secret?" The room was silent, the tension palpable. I could feel the collective gasp of shock from my family, their eyes darting between me and K-Edge, waiting for her to respond. The weight of her betrayal hung heavy in the air, and I reveled in the chaos I had created. K-Edge's face morphed from shock to anger as she finally found her voice. "You had no right to go through my phone. This is outrageous," she exclaimed, her voice rising. I held up my hand, cutting her off. "No, K-Edge. What's outrageous is your betrayal. You brought this on yourself." The reality of the situation washed over her, and I watched as she wrestled with her emotions. Anger, fear, and regret flickered across her face like a storm brewing on the horizon. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction, knowing that she was now confronted with the truth. Exposed before our family and friends. The dinner continued in a haze of shock and tension, K-Edge trying to regain her composure while my family struggled to understand the magnitude of what had just been revealed. As they exchanged worried glances, I knew that my plan had worked flawlessly. The truth was out, and K-Edge had to face the consequences of her actions, not just from me but from everyone around her. I felt a sense of closure as I watched the fallout unfold, knowing that this was just the beginning of her reckoning. The silence that enveloped the room was deafening, a suffocating blanket of tension that seemed to stretch for an eternity. K-Edge sat frozen, her expression a mix of disbelief and horror as she tried to process the whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. It was a moment I had anticipated, relishing the transformation that was unfolding before my eyes. Her face shifted from shock to confusion, and finally, a deep anger began to seep in, igniting the fire within her. "What do you mean? You've seen everything?" she stammered, her voice rising with each word. Her tone was defensive, a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation that was spiraling out of her grasp. "This isn't fair. You're trying to ruin my life." I could see her mind racing, trying to piece together a defense that would absolve her of any blame. But I remained silent, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched her unravel. The sense of power coursing through me was intoxicating. I was finally giving her a taste of the chaos she had created. It was a bittersweet victory, and I reveled in the knowledge that she was now confronting the reality of her choices. "John, please," she pleaded, her voice softening as desperation took hold. "You don't understand what this means for me. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just..." "Save it, K-Edge," I interrupted, my voice firm. "You can't justify what you did. The truth is out now, and you need to face the consequences." I let my words hang in the air, a heavy reminder of the reality she had tried to escape. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to grapple with the knowledge that everything she had built on a foundation of lies was crumbling before her. As she sat there, her features contorting with a mix of anger and sorrow, I could see the defiance in her eyes begin to flicker. The woman who had once held all the power in our relationship was now left vulnerable, and it was exhilarating to witness. I had deliberately given her the illusion of control, letting her believe that she had the business and a future ahead of her. But the reality was much harsher, and I was determined to strip that away. "I thought you deserved a chance," I said, my voice steady, "to take over the business and build something for yourself. But the truth is, I can't stand by while you continue to deceive not just me, but everyone around you." I paused, allowing my words to sink in, watching her wrestle with the reality of her betrayal. "I want a divorce, K-Edge." Her face paled at the mention of divorce, the word hanging in the air like a thunderclap. It was the final nail in the coffin of our relationship, and the reality of what was happening crashed over her like a wave. For a moment, she looked lost, her composure slipping as the tears she had fought to hold back began to spill over. "John," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please don't do this. I can change. I'll do better. Just give me another chance." But I was resolute, the fire of betrayal still burning bright within me. "You had your chance, K-Edge. You made your choices. And now it's time to face the music." I kept my gaze steady, refusing to show any signs of weakness. The satisfaction of having finally taken control felt liberating, and I couldn't let her manipulate the situation any further. As I stepped out of the chaotic family gathering, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders, as if I had shed the burden of years spent in denial. The air outside was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere inside. I took a deep breath, savoring the fresh air as it filled my lungs. Each inhalation a reminder that I was finally free. The moment I had envisioned for so long had arrived, and it felt surreal yet profoundly liberating. The evening sky was painted in hues of orange and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow on the world around me. I walked slowly, my mind replaying the events of the night, the look of shock on K-Edge's face, the gasps from our family, and the shifting tides of support and judgment. I had always been the one to shoulder the burden of our relationship. And now, as I reflected on the evening, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. K-Edge had made her choices, and now she had to deal with the consequences. With every step away from the house, I could feel the remnants of betrayal fading into the background. It was as if the very act of leaving that gathering symbolized a new beginning. The laughter, the chatter, and the solemn whispers of family were behind me, and I was ready to embrace a future that was entirely my own. I had dedicated so much of my life to building our business, our home, and our life together. But now, I realized that I had also lost pieces of myself along the way. As I walked, I allowed myself to dream about what lay ahead. The prospect of retirement had once seemed daunting, but now it felt like a blank canvas waiting to be filled with new experiences. I imagined traveling to places I had always wanted to explore, rediscovering passions I had set aside, and perhaps even meeting new people who would inspire me in ways I had long forgotten. The world was full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace them. Reaching my car, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I could still hear the echoes of K.Edge's desperate pleas ringing in my ears, but they no longer held power over me. She was now a chapter in my life that had closed, a chapter that had taught me about trust, resilience, and ultimately, the strength to reclaim my narrative. I had spent too long giving her the benefit of the doubt, justifying her actions, and hoping for change. But tonight, that hope had finally been extinguished, replaced by a newfound sense of self-worth. Driving away from the gathering, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment. It hadn't been easy, the heartbreak and betrayal had left deep scars. But those scars were also a testament to my strength. I had faced the truth, however painful, and emerged on the other side, ready to rebuild my life on my terms. I realized that this was not just a story of betrayal but also one of empowerment, a narrative where I had taken control of my destiny. With each mile I put between myself and that house, I felt the freedom to be who I truly was, without the shadows of doubt and betrayal looming over me. I envisioned my future, one where I could finally pursue my passions, explore my interests, and engage in relationships built on trust and mutual respect. The thought of starting anew filled me with excitement. The reality of K.Edge's decisions would soon catch up to her, and I would not be there to cushion the blow. She had to confront the consequences of her choices and navigate the fallout of her actions alone. It was a bitter pill for her to swallow, but it was one that she had prepared for herself. I would no longer be the person she leaned on to escape her mistakes or the one who took the blame for her missteps. As I drove through the familiar streets, the darkness of the evening felt comforting, like a protective cloak. I knew that while the road ahead might not be easy, it would be mine to navigate. I had the freedom to shape my path and create a life filled with purpose and joy, one that had been absent for far too long. Finally arriving home, I stepped out of the car and inhaled the scent of the cool night air. The stars twinkled above me, illuminating the sky and reminding me that there was so much more to discover. I stood in my driveway for a moment, allowing the reality of my newfound freedom to sink in. The lights in my house flickered warmly, beckoning me inside. I felt a surge of hope and excitement as I opened the door. The familiar surroundings felt different now, like a space waiting to be transformed. I could fill it with my essence and my energy, and create an environment that reflected who I was becoming. As I moved through the rooms, I imagined stripping away the remnants of the past, removing items that reminded me of K.Edge and her betrayal. I would replace them with symbols of my new journey, items that represented my goals, dreams, and aspirations. The thought of redefining my space invigorated me, and I couldn't wait to get started. Tonight was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. One where I could finally breathe and embrace the possibilities ahead. I felt a sense of closure as I turned off the lights and settled into the stillness of my home. The shadows of betrayal had been cast aside, and in their place was a glimmer of hope, shining brighter than ever before. I was ready to move forward, ready to embrace a life filled with authenticity and purpose. I knew that the path ahead would have its challenges, but I was no longer afraid. I had faced the darkness, and now I was stepping into the light. After that fateful evening when the truth came crashing down, K.Edge was left to navigate a world turned upside down. The immediate shock of the revelation had morphed into a whirlwind of chaos, as she grappled with the consequences of her choices. The family gathering had been a crucible, and the heat of exposure burned away any facade she had carefully crafted. The thrill of her secret relationship with my trainer had evaporated, replaced by a stark reality that demanded accountability. In the days that followed, K.Edge attempted to rebuild her life amidst the rubble of her decisions. She clung to her newfound control over the business, but the weight of her actions hung heavy over her. The support she had once taken for granted began to dwindle, especially among family and friends who had witnessed her public humiliation. The sympathy she sought turned into judgment as whispers of her betrayal circulated, tainting her reputation. The pressure mounted, and K.Edge found herself increasingly isolated, grappling with the aftermath of the choices that had led her to this point. Meanwhile, the trainer, who had once been a source of excitement and validation for her, faced his downfall. Once the pride of his profession, he was now a pariah. When the news of their affair broke, his employer had no choice but to sever ties. The scandal sent shockwaves through the gym community, and clients began to question his professionalism. Overnight, he lost not only his job but also his credibility and status. K-Edge's infidelity had cost him dearly, and the bitterness began to fester. As he navigated the fallout, the trainer felt betrayed in his own right. The emotional connection he believed they had built crumbled under the weight of the scandal. K-Edge had been the one to introduce him to her world, a world he had admired from the sidelines, a life filled with luxury and influence. He had believed they were forging something real, but now he felt like a pawn in her game. The betrayal cut deep. He felt used and discarded, a mere stepping stone in K-Edge's pursuit of something she never fully appreciated. In the months that followed, their relationship unraveled as tensions simmered beneath the surface. K-Edge tried to reach out, hoping to salvage what was left of their connection, but the trainer was consumed by anger and resentment. He held her responsible for the loss of his career, his reputation, and the life he had envisioned. Each conversation was fraught with accusations, and K-Edge's attempts to justify her actions only ignited the flames of conflict. "You knew what you were doing," he would say, his voice a mix of anger and pain. "You put us both in this position. You didn't think about the consequences, did you?" K-Edge struggled to defend herself. She had never intended for things to spiral out of control. What had started as a fleeting escape from the monotony of her life had turned into a catastrophic spiral. But as she faced the fallout of her actions, she found it increasingly difficult to articulate her feelings. The weight of guilt pressed down on her, and every attempt to express her emotions was met with hostility. Eventually, their relationship became untenable. The trainer's bitterness suffocated any lingering affection he had for K-Edge. He couldn't forget how her choices had shattered not only their lives but also their career. On a cold evening, they had what would become their final confrontation. Emotions ran high, and words flew like daggers. "This isn't working, K-Edge," he said, his voice trembling with pent-up frustration. "You ruined everything. I can't do this anymore." K-Edge felt a pang of desperation, but she also recognized the truth in his words. The connection that once felt electric now fizzled under the weight of reality. "I never meant for any of this to happen," she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I thought we had something special." "What we had was a fantasy," he shot back, the bitterness in his tone cutting through her. "You had to face the truth. I was never going to be your escape. And now? You've lost everything." At that moment, K-Edge understood that the dream she had chased was gone. She was left with nothing but the stark reality of her choices. With heavy hearts and unresolved issues, they parted ways, both aware that they had fallen victim to their desires. As time passed, K-Edge attempted to pick up the pieces of her life. She threw herself into the business, hoping to regain some semblance of control and purpose. But the echo of her choices lingered, haunting her as she navigated a world stripped of the glamour she had once enjoyed. The whispers of betrayal followed her like shadows, reminding her of the price she had paid for her actions. The trainer, on the other hand, struggled to find his footing again. He faced the arduous task of rebuilding his life and reputation, seeking solace in the gym community that had once embraced him. It was a long, painful journey, but he was determined to rise from the ashes of betrayal. Through hard work and perseverance, he slowly regained the trust of his clients and friends, though the scars of the past remained etched in his memory. In the end, K-Edge and the trainer both learned hard lessons about the consequences of their choices. Their paths diverged, and the brief affair that had ignited a flame of passion ultimately extinguished, leaving them both to grapple with the reality of their actions. K-Edge was left to rebuild her life amidst the ruins of her choices, while the trainer worked to reclaim his identity in a world that had once celebrated him. The tale of K-Edge and the trainer became a cautionary one, a reminder that the pursuit of fleeting desires could lead to devastating consequences. Both would carry the weight of their decisions as they moved forward, forever marked by the lessons learned through heartbreak and betrayal. As I sat in the quiet solitude of my home, the weight of the past slowly lifted, leaving me with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. I looked out of the window, watching as the sun began to rise, painting the sky with warm hues of orange and pink. The dawn of a new day felt symbolic, a fresh start, an opportunity to redefine my life on my terms. At that moment, I realized that I was not just free from K-Edge's betrayal, I was free to embrace the future I had always envisioned for myself. The horizon stretched out before me, infinite and inviting, filled with endless possibilities. I had spent too long entangled in a web of deceit, neglecting my desires and aspirations in favor of someone else's happiness. Now, I was ready to reclaim my life and pursue what truly mattered to me. The idea of building a life that reflected my dreams, values, and interests filled me with a sense of excitement I hadn't experienced in ages. For too long, I had allowed K-Edge to dictate the narrative of our relationship, shaping it with her choices and actions. But now, I was the author of my own story, ready to write a new chapter. I envisioned a life where I could immerse myself in my passions, traveling to far-off places I had always dreamed of visiting, learning new skills, and connecting with people who inspired me. Each thought felt like a stepping stone towards a brighter future, a future where I could find joy without the shadows of betrayal looming overhead. I also recognized the importance of healing. The scars left by K-Edge's betrayal would take time to mend, but I was determined to face them head-on. I sought to embrace the emotions that came with the healing process: anger, sadness, and ultimately, acceptance. This journey was not just about moving on. It was about understanding myself better, about reflecting on what I wanted and deserved in a relationship. It was a path toward personal growth and self-discovery, one that would lead me to the genuine happiness I had long sought. With this newfound clarity, I began to imagine the kind of relationships I wanted to foster moving forward. I yearned for connections built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect, relationships where both parties felt valued and supported. No longer would I settle for anything less. I wanted to surround myself with people who uplifted me, who encouraged my growth, and who celebrated my successes, however small they may be. As I contemplated the future, I realized that I could approach life with renewed enthusiasm. I made a commitment to myself to step outside my comfort zone, to take risks, and to embrace change. I envisioned myself engaging in new activities, perhaps joining a hiking group, exploring art classes, or even volunteering for causes I was passionate about. Each experience would contribute to the tapestry of my new life, enriching it with vibrant colors and textures that reflected who I truly was. I also took a moment to reflect on what happiness meant to me, free from the constraints of the past. Happiness, I realized, was not merely the absence of pain or betrayal. It was the presence of purpose, fulfillment, and connection. It was about finding joy in the little things: sipping coffee on a sunny morning, exploring a new trail, or sharing laughter with friends. Happiness was a journey, not a destination, and I was ready to embrace every step of the way. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I understood that while K-Edge's actions had hurt me deeply, they had also propelled me toward self-awareness and strength. I was no longer a victim of circumstance, I was a survivor, ready to forge my path. As I stepped outside, the sun kissed my skin, invigorating me with its warmth. The world felt alive, filled with opportunities waiting to be seized. I took a moment to appreciate the beauty around me: the blooming flowers, the chirping birds, and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Each detail served as a reminder that life was full of wonders, waiting to be explored. With a heart full of hope and determination, I resolved to embrace the future with open arms. I would not let fear or doubt hinder my progress. Instead, I would harness the lessons learned from my past to fuel my journey forward. I was ready to rebuild my life, discover what happiness meant for me, and savor every moment along the way. I had come to understand that life was an intricate dance of light and shadow, of joy and sorrow. And as I looked to the horizon, I felt a surge of optimism course through me. I was no longer defined by K-Edge's betrayal. I was defined by my resilience and the choices I would make from this point on. With each passing day, I would continue to take steps toward my new life, drawing strength from within and the knowledge that I had the power to shape my own destiny. It was a beautiful realization, one that filled me with gratitude for the journey that lay ahead. I was ready to live, to love, and to find my own version of happiness, far removed from lies and betrayal, and instead grounded in authenticity, hope, and joy. As the dust settled on the tumultuous chapter of my life, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The betrayal of K-Edge had left deep scars, But instead of succumbing to bitterness, I chose to channel my energy into something positive. I needed an outlet, something that would help me rediscover my passions and, in turn, allow me to let go of the past. That's when I stumbled upon an old hobby that had long been overshadowed by the demands of my previous life. I had always enjoyed woodworking as a child. I remembered the joy of creating something tangible with my hands, the smell of freshly cut wood, and the satisfaction of crafting functional art. It had been years since I had last picked up a chisel or a saw, but as I dusted off my tools and set up a workspace in my garage, a flicker of excitement ignited within me. I began to immerse myself in the craft, rediscovering the joy of creating. At first, it was just a way to fill my time. I started small, making simple furniture pieces for my home, a coffee table here, a few shelves there. The rhythmic motion of sanding, cutting, and assembling was therapeutic. With each project I completed, I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me, a welcome distraction from the pain I had endured. The more I worked, the more I realized that I was not just crafting pieces of wood. I was building a new life for myself. As my skills improved, I found myself experimenting with more intricate designs, incorporating unique elements into my work. I began to draw inspiration from the world around me, incorporating elements of nature into my creations. Friends and family started to take notice of my craftsmanship, complimenting me on the pieces I had made. Encouraged by their positive feedback, I decided to take a leap of faith and showcase my work online. I set up a simple website and shared photos of my creations on social media. To my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. People appreciated the handmade quality of my work and the passion that went into each piece. As orders began to trickle in, I realized that my hobby had the potential to become more than just a pastime. It could evolve into a business. With renewed determination, I poured my heart into this new venture. I spent hours researching materials, honing my techniques, and learning about marketing and sales. I set up an online shop, and soon my creations began to gain traction in the local artisan community. I was no longer just John, the man who had been betrayed and left behind. I was John, the craftsman, the entrepreneur. As my business began to flourish, I found that each piece I created carried with it a sense of healing. The act of building and designing allowed me to process my emotions and channel my experiences into something beautiful. Each project was a testament to my resilience and a reminder that I could rise from the ashes of my past. My work became a form of therapy, a way to express my journey and share it with others. I also discovered the joy of connecting with customers who appreciated the story behind each piece. I began to share snippets of my journey on my website and social media, allowing my audience to witness my growth and transformation. It felt empowering to know that my experiences could resonate with others, and the support I received from the community was both humbling and motivating. Eventually, I took part in local craft fairs and markets, where I showcased my work alongside other artisans. The sense of camaraderie among fellow makers was invigorating, and I found myself surrounded by individuals who shared my passion. The environment was vibrant and encouraging, filled with creativity and collaboration. I realized that I was not alone in my journey. Many had faced their struggles and were using their talents to rebuild their lives. As the months went by, my woodworking business continued to grow. I hired a small team to help with production, allowing me to focus on design and innovation. The venture became more than just a way to heal, it blossomed into a thriving enterprise that brought joy to others. Each piece I crafted was infused with the lessons I had learned about resilience, creativity, and the power of starting anew. Reflecting on my journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the challenges I had faced. The betrayal that had once consumed me had ultimately led me to discover my passion and purpose. I had transformed my pain into art, and in doing so, I had reclaimed my life. As I stood in my workshop, surrounded by the tools and materials that had become my lifeline, I smiled at the future ahead. I was ready to embrace the next chapter, one filled with creativity, connection, and a newfound sense of fulfillment. The past no longer held power over me. I had forged a new path and discovered the beauty of resilience.